Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
So when I was working on Selena, the series for Netflix, to play the role of Abraham Quintanilla, I put on a specific amount of weight, which I was fine doing, but also realizing it could be difficult to get that weight off. I got back into my physical regimen with James Leha, but I was still having trouble with just those last amounts. And that's when I got to meet Arturo from Laredo Medical Weight Loss Clinic. And just the products that he gave me kind of put me over the edge. I feel great about myself.
We're back at you in Gloves Off. I'm Professor Buitron. I'm here with George Saldana, founder of 2503, which is a group that helps out non-custodial parents fight against parental alienation and issues that occur when a custodial parent doesn't allow a non-custodial parent to see their child. And that is something that is a problem throughout Texas and throughout the country. How are we doing today?
Good, Paul. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, thanks for always coming on. And the reason is I want to congratulate you for your work because, number one, we've been dealing with this nonsense since now. My daughter aged out in April. She graduated last May. And I started with her when she was 7 years old, and I started going through the ordeals. I didn't meet you all guys until about when she was 9. My son was about 11 when I had an incident in San Antonio, and that's when everything kind of started off. But a lot of talk to us in a normal scenario for people to kind of gather what happens, what occurs, because a lot of people think that it doesn't happen. Doesn't exist. But then once they start realizing that this occurs every other weekend, it's something that they might say, you know what, I've seen it done. I've been involved with it. It happened to me. I just did not know the name.
Yeah, I mean, this issue is big. It's been big for a while, and we're starting to see the snowball effect. We're starting to see some counties starting to enforce. And some of the statistics that I can remember off the top of my head is in 2016, there was 12,354 visitation violations in San Antonio. That's San Antonio. That's not Bexar County, in which San Antonio is in. But that's how large the issue was that in 2016, there was 12,354 visitation violations, which means that there was some parents that showed up to the Possession and Access Exchange Center, and basically law enforcement just logged it down as a visitation violation. We're seeing that these juvenile courts or juvenile detention centers or jails for juveniles are seeing, here in Bexar County anyway, the Bexar County Juvenile Detention Center is seeing about 70 to 74% of all the juveniles that are being detained there in the Juvenile Detention Center as being coming from single parent households. And when you put those two statistics together, you have parents, more importantly fathers, that are trying to be active in their child's lives. And when law enforcement doesn't enforce this, the statistics here in Texas, in which the Texas Attorney General paid for these statistics, paid for this research to be done, and it says that 80% of children are less likely to go to jail if there is a father involved in their household, whether it's in their household or their parent, their father is trying to be active. It really comes down to law enforcement. Law enforcement is denying these parents their fundamental right to their children. The court has already adjudicated what's in the best interest of the child, and it says you have the right. And the offending parent, usually the mom, and I don't want to get crossed sideways with genders, but 94% of non-custodial parents in the state of Texas are of men, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's we got that from the Texas Attorney General, and so a lot real quick, if I can just finish, a lot of these non-custodial parents, these men are actually doing their duty, doing and wanting their rights to be enforced, and law enforcement is denying that. They're not listening to the judge. They'd rather just send it back to the judge to say it's a civil matter, when in fact it is a criminal matter.
And there's women out there that are also going through this, and it's discriminatory that's more men are non-custodial parents, but doesn't prejudice against women going through this as well, because some women have gone through there and have done that. But what I'm seeing, and I'm seeing more of a pattern, and it kind of opened my eyes, was that, number one, the police really don't care if the child's going to go back there. They'll call you, you're trying to see your child, and they're going to call you a deadbeat father regardless. And the principals are going to call you a deadbeat father if their child gets in trouble at school. Counselors, judges, everybody else is going to call you a deadbeat father. And lawyers do it the same way. I've seen lawyers, just the vast majority, and there is some good attorneys out there, don't get me wrong, but the vast majority of attorneys, especially that are divorce attorneys or family law attorneys, they blatantly say, most of them call out a father as a deadbeat, and they'll project a profiling attitude in front of the court that the father's aggressive and so on and so forth, onward down the line, just to win a couple of bucks instead of destroying a child in the future. And that to me is a little bit wrong. But then you start back and you start looking at stuff here that you just mentioned something, that a lot of these young adults or juveniles growing up in single parent housing are found in juvies, and they're already going into the penitentiary. I mean, we have school to prison pipeline districts that are designed specifically to destroy a child and to place them in a penal avenue, and the penal circuit, if you want to put it that way. And when the child is 17 years old and does something wrong as a senior, well, now he's going to the county, and then you start seeing a lot of business with privatization of jails. That's what their moneymaker is, and more of these private jails are coming of age. So are we really just feeding our jails with our kids? Is that basically
absolutely we are? And
40 years.
And the thing is, the state knows about it. They've done this research, and there's nobody stopping this. And it sucks that the normal response we get is go talk to your legislators. Well, our legislators legislated 2503. It's been on the books for 51 years.
And it was amended 2 years ago, and Laredo passed it last year. And to the day, nobody's ever done anything, given out a ticket. They kind of say that it doesn't exist. The police, you talk to them, they don't even know it exists. So
from what I've been seeing, Paul, a lot of people are uneducated in their rights, and law enforcement, they see things maybe from a different view, and they've been taught these traditional bad habits of policing, and it's new to them. And so I try to educate parents and say, hey, look, when it says anywhere on your court order, it says you're right, the word right, R-I-G-H-T, that's an entitlement. You are entitled to that possession and access. And that means, like, if somebody's interfering with your entitlement, whether it's your free speech, your right to assemble, your right to bear arms, your Miranda rights, right? That's an entitlement you have. And when law enforcement doesn't enforce that entitlement, allows criminal felonious behavior to persistently go on for months and years, it's going to have a detrimental effect on the child. and the child ends up in juvenile detention.
You're absolutely correct, and you see that, and it's this stigmatism that goes on there with divorced parents, and especially the divorced father, and the way society in general, all the way throughout. There's not one element of society, whether it's the educational field, the medical field, or the law enforcement field, or even the judicial field. They're going to call that father a deadbeat, regardless if they're there with their sons all the time. And that is just that is what they've labeled fathers as, and it's sad because, number one, they all use it. They all have that excuse. They all bring it out, and it's kind of like a form. Oh, okay, yeah, that child comes from it's a deadbeat father's fault. It's a deadbeat father's fault. But yet, they live with their mother left and right. And I'm not going after moms or whatnot. I'm just going out after society at the way their discriminatory actions are. And you see that in school districts, and you see that with the police. And it's something that we either change it or it's going to get worse, and it's going to blow up in our face. It's blowing up in our face.
Paul, it's already gotten worse. I mean, look at the 80s. Look. I mean, and that's when I was running around as a kid in the 80s. And, the lifestyle choices were different. We had kids that were outside playing, getting hurt on the merry-go-round or on the swings, jumping off and having scrapes and bruises. And in my case, my son had an accident at the water park, and they said that he was abused by me. And a lot of these parents are afraid to do fun things with their children, because if anything happens to their children, if there's a bruise, if there's a bruise on their leg from riding bicycles or taking the training wheels off, the mother is going to go file for a protective order or a restraining order and take the rights from that father. And so
it's getting worse now. It's going to get worse.
Now you have parents that are using the system to what I call it is legalized or weaponized their legal skill. When lawyers, and you just harped on it just a little while ago, these lawyers are trying to make a few bucks. No, they're making hundreds of dollars by weaponizing their legal skill. That's just like if a police officer weaponized his policeman skills, or a fireman legalized his or weaponized his fireman skills and broke down doors and opened up roofs, right? And then there was no accountability to it. These people are kicking in your doors. These people are whatever. Every profession, you can weaponize that profession skill set. And lawyers are dangerous when they do that, because now what they're doing is they're creating a emotional, mental, and financial harm, not only to the other parent, which is the dad, but also to the child, because now you're weaponizing your legal skill to remove the fundamental right of that child based on the mother's, and let me just say, offending parents' wishes, and for a profit at that. It's wrong. It's very wrong.
And now with some of the laws that came out, I was trying to say earlier, if you have guns, if you like hunting and so on and so forth, and they place a little tag on you that you're an aggressive person, you're a violent person, you did this, there's the silver bullet effect, that temporary restraining order on you because you're aggressive or what have you, because they lie left and right. And guess what happens? Your guns are going to be removed now. And it's not going to stop. It's going to get worse and worse. And what's going to happen is you're going to have a society in the next 20 years, I say this, that you're going to have a very few people that are really going to get married, very few. And you're going to have a whole spectrum of kids that are growing up with, each sibling's going to have a different name. And men that are now this age that grew up with this alienation and seen this behavior the way it is. The smart ones are going to say, "I don't want to get married. The hell with you."
Yeah, there's already that trend going on, but I grew up in the '80s, Paul, and you have, I mean, look, just before my time, you had high school seniors that would drive their pickup truck or their dad's pickup truck with a shotgun hanging from the rearview mirror, and there was never any school shootings.
Absolutely,
Right?
it's going to get worse.
And now we see school shootings all the time. You look at Uvalde, you look at Columbine, you look at all of these school shootings, and a lot of these mass shooters are coming from fatherless households or single parent households at that, because parents, I mean, children need a mom and a dad. And
the one in Uvalde, let's touch base on the one in Uvalde. He came from a single parent home.
Yep.
There's word on the street that the father was not allowed to see the child, and they lived in in Uvalde. It's not that big of a town. And so when you have that type of alienation, and you have that type of or you have a child that's growing up with the mom, the grandmother, the aunts, the police, everybody saying that it's the deadbeat's father's fault. Well, and the father for most kids are their heroes when they're growing up, and all of a sudden they're destroying this ideology of what they are. These kids are going to get up to grow up a little bit screwed up in the head, and you see that all the time. And it's sad. It's sad because now, instead of getting punished, the kid getting punished and guess what? You're not going to be playing your Nintendo or your PlayStation or what have you now. Atari was what we were back when we were growing up, and you couldn't play that. Now they'll just pop you a couple of pills for you to slow down, and now all of a sudden now you have a kid that might have not been not how can I say, did not need the medications, but now he's addicted to them. So just because you can't rear that child, you know what I'm saying? So that's what's going on.
Never mind disciplining him. Just give him his iPad and tell him to go sit in the corner and shut up. I mean, there's no accountability anymore. There's no accountability for offending parents keeping the child away. There's no accountability with judges to fix that situation with an enforcement action in civil court, right? That's the reason why we want law enforcement on the criminal side to enforce this, because family courts don't enforce it. All they do is spin you up in a web of lies and then keep asking you to come back until somebody runs out of money. Everybody's happy except your child. And so that's why it's important that when it's your right to see your child at your time, the judge has already deemed that in the best interest of the child. Law enforcement and DAs not enforcing that is, one, they're neglecting their duty to act. I mean, that's a felony crime. That's a felony. Whether you want it to believe it or not, it is a felony. Our legislators, we elect our legislators, they make the laws, and the DAs and law enforcement is supposed to uphold the laws and the Constitution of the state. Not only that, but the judge has already deemed it in the best interest. So now you're going to let a felony go unreported. You're not going to help that child. And when that child becomes a school shooter, that child goes to jail, he murders somebody, he hits somebody, he abuses somebody. You're going to say, oh, well, he grew up without or his dad was a deadbeat, right? And it just, society is harmed by this.
Let me put it to you this way: the kid doesn't have to be a school shooter. The kid just has to go to school. Somebody gives him a vape pen. He spends time in juvie. He went to the court. He's already inside now, because now the vape pens are illegal, whether you want it or not, and here in the state of Texas. So now this kid's going to juvie, and the first thing, all the teaching and everything, oh, it's the deadbeat father's fault. The kid's poor mom, it's a deadbeat father's fault. You're like, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
I've witnessed it. It's socially acceptable. It's socially acceptable in society for moms to whoop their kids' ass. Oh, yeah, my mom beat me with the chancla, or my mom hit me, or, man, I've been beat with the chancla, right? Did I ever think I was being abused? No, I always thought I was being punished for doing stupid stuff, right? But when a dad tries to discipline sort of way. Like in my case, for instance, I took a cell phone from my 13-year-old daughter, and oh my goodness, police were called and everything. A father can't even be a father anymore without having to worry about whether someone's going to file a protective order or restraining order against them.
Like I said,
It's nuts. Then you're labeled as a deadbeat.
like men are going to start saying, you know what? I'm not getting married. See you later. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to end up happening. So you're going to start seeing the soccer team families where you have 8, 9 kids with all different last names. That's going to be the trend for the next 20 years.
I think it's already the trend. I talked about the statistics a little earlier. 90% of runaways come from fatherless homes, not single parent homes, fatherless homes. 90% of runaways come from fatherless homes. Now, with that being said, a third of those 90% are at high risk within 48 hours of being sexually trafficked. We have a huge sexual trafficking issue here in the state of Texas and all over the country, right? And honestly, 4 eyes are better than 2, right? I've always heard that my whole life. If you have 4 or 2 sets of eyes, 4 eyeballs, right, watching after this child, trying to make sure that they go down the right path in the right direction, you're going to have more success at pushing that child in the right direction than only 1 set of eyes or 2 eyeballs. I mean, that's what I think, especially when you're trying to account for a missing child. And going into missing children, when law enforcement doesn't enforce these court orders, and again, 90% of runaways, homeless, come from fatherless homes, you have 75% more likely to get pregnant. You got 80% less likely to go to jail, right? So fathers are important.
No, you're correct. But it's, I don't know, it's we have lost the unity of the police trying to help out. I don't know what they're doing. I had we know the story, my story, and people don't know the story. It was strange when a police officer came over here and pulled out a gun. So that's when we fought to change it to what, $500 ticket.
I think I honestly, what I think it's going to come down to is start removing those top elected officials or the city manager. If your police officer or your police chief is not going to enforce it, we need to remove that city manager. We need to start. And again, it's a felony. The legislature has already legislated failure to report a felony. You have to report a felony. The Code of Criminal Procedure states that if it a felony, it shall be forthwith before a magistrate of the county. Now, a lot of people say, well, they have prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutorial discretion in the DA's office is not absolute. It doesn't give unbridled discretion to every interference with child custody case. Interference with child custody, the DA has to take a fact-based investigation and then apply prosecutorial discretion based on the facts of the case, right? You just saying, hey, I'm not going to enforce this. The legislature legislated it, but I just think these are better dealt with in family court. No, that's nonsense. And we need to start educating parents and telling parents, hey, look, a DA's prosecutorial discretion is not absolute. They don't have absolute immunity from neglecting to do their job, because in the Code of Criminal Procedure, it has neglect of duty under district attorneys. So I encourage everybody to go to Chapter 2 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, start looking at that, reading it word for word, educating yourself, and then looking up the definition of those legal terms or those legal words, and then start applying them when trying to educate law enforcement, DA, judges, or whatever. One other thing I'd like to say, and then I'll give it back to you, is that judges, family court judges, family court judges, family district court judges are magistrates as per the Code of Criminal Procedure. And they're going to say, well, I'm a family district court, or I'm a civil district court, or I'm a criminal district court. It doesn't matter, because all district courts are equal. All district courts are equal. They are all magistrates as per the Code of Criminal Procedure, Chapter 2. The Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, the Court of Criminal Appeals, district courts, they are all magistrates. And so when you tell a district family court judge, hey, this person didn't turn over the child, I tried to report the felony, the officer didn't want to take my criminal complaint, didn't want to submit it to the DA, it stops at law enforcement. Law enforcement is stopping the public from reporting that crime. Now, that is a First Amendment violation, because everybody has a First Amendment right in the United States to not only to free speech, but also to petition their government, right? And if somebody has violated me, I'm well within my rights to call law enforcement to make that felony report. And it shall be forthwith before the magistrate of the county. And again, I just told you what a magistrate is. It doesn't say stop at the DA's office, let the DA decide what they're going to do, and then we'll send it over to the district courts. So there's a lot of education. We're here to bring education to parents, to law enforcement, DAs, and judges. But if a family court district judge doesn't know what interference with child custody is and that it's a felony, that judge needs to be removed off the bench, period. You're dealing with families and possession and access being a huge issue, and you can't comprehend that it's that big of an issue, that it's a felony, then that judge needs to be removed off the bench.
Let me tell you one thing here right now. I think right now where we need to push is term limits, period. You got one term limit, and out you go. Get somebody else to go in there. We have enough lawyers to run the circles for them to become judges and magistrates. Every 4 years, you can pick another one, go forward. There's enough lawyers that can do that. And I think every lawyer needs to be part of the bench at one particular time. And some lawyers might say, well, it's my own free right to do this, free right to do that. Okay, fine. But you guys are all officers of what?
The court.
The court.
Yeah.
So you all have to, at one point in time, well, guess what? Now it's your turn. You four are going to go up there, and you four are going to run, and one of you is going to be elected, and then it goes on and on. That's next 4 years, and
some of the things we're seeing, Paul. I do some judicial corruption now. I've kind of passed the torch of 2503 to some of my admins and moderators. I work on a lot of judicial corruption right now. I'm involved in cases all over the state of Texas, and some of the things that we're seeing is that these judges, I don't think some of them know the Constitution. I know for a fact that there's Supreme Court justices in the United States that know that some of these law schools don't teach the Constitution to law students, which sounds silly to me. I mean, especially when you have due process issues and due process clause and all these other judicial functions that need to be upheld to fundamental constitutional rights. They're just running rogue. They're legislating from the bench, just like the DA, just like the cops, right? They're just legislating however they want. No, we don't want to enforce it. You can't make us. Well, then what the hell do we need a legislator for if you're going to tell us what we can file and what we can't?
I understand.
Yeah. It's disheartening that some people would rather just definitely, those in the movement will see retaliation. So if you're not ready to go to jail for your kids, just go hire an attorney, because some of us, and your story, with law enforcement, and the gun issue there in Laredo, I mean, that's concerning, right? You have a father following the court order, and you're willing to draw your gun and threaten this man for trying to be a good dad as per the judge. No, man.
Let me tell you something, George, and that beauty. They caught that beauty. We went through the internal affairs. It did diddly squat. They're as worthless as tits on the board. And later on last year, I believe, they caught that same beauty, the one that pulled out the gun on them. They caught that beauty stealing from their police union. So if they would have gotten fired away, this guy would have stolen their money. So now I don't even know whatever happened to him. I don't even know if he's still on patrol, suspended, or did they throw him in jail? I have no idea. But he ripped off their own brothers in blues money. So to me, I'm like, we need to protect the good peace officers out there. I'm all for that. Let's protect them, every single one of them out there.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
the
there's good judges, there's good lawyers, there's good cops, there's good firemen. There's good employees everywhere, and then you have bad judges, bad lawyers, bad policemen, bad DAs, and right. And some of them aren't just bad; they're just dumb. I don't even know how they got out of law school. If you're a judge and you don't know that it's a court observer's First Amendment right to go and observe their judiciary while they work, you shouldn't be on that bench. We have judges in Harris County, in Tarrant County, that are denying the public from watching their judicial proceedings because they don't want to be caught doing anything unethical. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and that's part of some of the education is we go back and we reinforce some of these basic fundamentals to these parents and say, no, you should take court observers with you to family court so you can observe how family courts are run. Not only is there perjury and aggravated perjury, there's lawyers making statements of fact that they know are untrue. They're weaponizing their legal skill, all to gain the advantageous result in that family court proceeding while hurting that child. And it's not their child. They don't give a shit whether it's your child, I
have seen that firsthand, George. And we have complaints going out to the bar. The bar doesn't do anything. If they do, hopefully they do, because those are some bad attorneys. I always thought and I always held attorneys at a very high esteem, somebody that was of a just mind. But some of these individuals that I've been seeing, some of these individuals have been running around. There's still some good ones out there, though. There's still some good ones out there.
So, and if I could just say this, like, a family court judge doesn't have unbridled discretion to just micromanage your parenting style at all. A judge is there to call balls and strikes. Balls outside the law, strikes, inside the law. Right? They're only there to say, hey, look, you broke the law or you didn't break the law. And that's their job. Once these judges are saying, we need to have you at, we need to have you go to exchange centers at the police department, right? And I understand it's safe and it's safe for some people, but when they start getting into, stating that you have to go to supervise visitations because there's a preponderance of evidence that you might have hurt your child or abused your child, we need to raise that standard to clear and convincing from preponderance of evidence, because preponderance of evidence, they have way too much discretion. And
let me tell you something real quick, and I'll because I know that is something that touches base to many people. We have to make it safe to go through it because you have a lot of emotions going through. We've had a lot of non-custodial dads that have been shot by the new boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend, the ex-father-in-law, the new husband, the new whatever.
Well, and I mean, just real quick, Paul, you had a father shoot a San Antonio police officer detective here because he wanted to see his dad. I mean, he wanted to see his children. So it's not just dads being murdered, but cops are being murdered because parents are strung out because they want to see their child with their valid court order.
Absolutely. And we need to stop that. We need to change this. And it has to come down and find the true solution for this, because what has been going on the last 30 years plus is not working. And unless, like we said earlier, the thing is about private prisons, and that's what it's all about. Then they have their goal, and their goal is already done, and it's already set, and it's moving along the way they've planned it, because the what we maybe that's the main thing, because the United States is a country that has more incarcerated people inside the prisons than any other country in the world, and that to me is it's pretty sad, and I think that's where everybody was trained in. I hate to take it into a conspiracy type theory, but the way it looks like it, school to prison pipelines, the stats going on fathers without their fathers present. The police don't want their fathers present, but the police need to take people to jail. You know what I'm saying? So
the sad part about it is that a lot of these police officers are divorced. They're going through the same thing, but they've been ingrained to handle it the correct way. Go back to family court. And I know a police officer, a Houston police officer, his ex was a Harris County deputy, and he tried to file interference with child custody. Both agencies arrived on scene, the Harris County Sheriff and HPD, and they still didn't arrest mom. They didn't make her turn over the child. But, he was trying to push 2503 on his ex-wife. And I think a lot of people think that George just wants to make parents felons. No, we want to hold people accountable to those orders. If you're not going to enforce the court order for possession and access, you're sure as hell not going to enforce those same orders for child support. So if you allow one infraction of the law to happen, you have to let all the infractions of the law happen. Nobody's above the law. And we've seen that. And I don't want to get political. I don't want to talk about Trump or Biden, but that's a current event that should tell these district court judges, these family court judges, that they're not above the law. They can be criminally charged. A lot of people think that these family court judges have immunity. They can do whatever they want. And that's a myth.
And I think that's what we have to start going after. And I think that's what we have to start going after: the behavior of the judges, the way they do stuff, and I think that is one key point is going after the judges that get up there, because they're not immune. Right. And the next candidate for Laredo, we're going to be running him for mayor.
He'll probably enforce 2503 before the mayor does.
He'll probably enforce it. You're absolutely correct. Anyway, what was I going to say? This is a problem that you and I have been involved with easy for the last 10 years. And before us, there was groups of people that were involved with that for 10 years prior. And it's something that in the next 10 years, you and I are going to turn around and we're going to talk to some of these individuals that are in this, and they're still going to be trying to enforce 2503. Why? Because to me, I think the main objective is either they want our kids to become prisoners to feed the privatized prisons. That's the only thing that's in for me.
Well, we're going to have this conversation. We're going to have a big boy conversation, and we're going to talk about your neglectful duties. And of course, they don't like that. But when you start holding yourself with a little bit of confidence and enthusiasm because you want to be a parent, I'll get locked up every single day for the rest of my life trying to be a father. I'm unapologetic about it. And I hope this gets to Laredo City Council, to the police chief, to the sheriff, and to the DA there in Laredo, in Webb County. We have a legislature for a reason. And the legislature has already talked on House Bill 969. And it's your duty to listen to the people. You denying parents their fundamental rights to their children, you allowing law enforcement to deny these parents, you're part of the problem, and you need to be removed from your political seat, period.
But I don't don't think I don't think it's a DA, because a DA I've spoken with him over it, and he's all for it. Half of these judges, some of these judges here are for it. Some of them don't understand it. The sheriff is for it. It's the police. It's a police.
And this is real easy. Send an employee mass email out. You will start taking these charges. You will start referring them to the DA if they meet these certain criminal facts. Right?
They're not giving a ticket.
So if I can go back on House Bill 969, 969 refers to a city ordinance. You have to go, and a lot of people have been asking me about this. A lot of people have been saying, hey, look, I'm asking them for a ticket and they're not giving them a ticket. But
no, it's already passed in Laredo, Texas. Laredo, Texas passed it as an ordinance last August. So it started September. They have yet to give out a ticket. Maybe so. Maybe, I don't know. Might be wrong. But as of today, and what I've heard, they have yet to give out a ticket and enforce it.
Maybe we should do public information request and look it up.
Maybe we should, because there's a lot of people that always call and said this happened with the 2503, and they came out here, they didn't do anything, but they're supposed to give them a ticket. No, there was no ticket given. Some of these police officers that I've talked to, they don't even understand that it exists. So there has to be some lack of communication, and I believe it. And I believe that there is a lack of education, or it's just ego that they don't want to do it.
I mean, they have roll call before shift. I don't understand why the sergeants or whatever rank they are that are having roll call don't start, especially roll call on first, third, and fifth Fridays. Whether you're on the day shift or the night shift, you should be ready. Whether there's roll call before the summer possession starts. Hey guys, we're going to have an influx of these calls. Please remember interference with child custody, penal code, and the ticket option as well. And it's real simple to go over on roll call, but yet I don't understand. And I was in the fire department. We always got bulletins come out. We had to sign that we read the bulletins and that we understand the new policy, procedure, or whatever. So I know they have it in other departments. It's just a lack of training on law enforcement's part, and it sucks, man. It really does. To me, it's an easy fix. If I was a police chief or a sheriff or a mayor or somebody, I would do an inquiry and ask, what are you doing about this? Are we hearing this? The people have already talked about it. They want it. How do we start implementing it in our day-to-day operations?
And that's the sad part, because we all love our children and we all went through hell to be with their kids.
Everybody does, and that's why I'm not. That's why I'm unapologetic about it. That's why the men and women that might say, "Hey, George is allowed. He's destructive. He's this and that." No, man, I'm fighting for my kid. You can call me a deadbeat all you want, but your words don't define me as a father. I know what I'm doing. I know that I might not have the legal skill set, but I'm willing to learn. I know that I might not be as great as a lawyer, but I'm willing to learn, right? And at the end of the day, my kids might not understand it, but one day my kids are going to come around and say, damn, my dad took on judges, lawyers, just to be a dad to me, I haven't seen my son in 3 years because of false allegations, perjury, aggravated perjury, ex parte communication, and retaliatory arrest. If you don't, and again, I was thrown in jail for tapping a bailiff on the shoulder like this, right, to call his supervisor because I wanted to get my laptop bag out of the courtroom, and I was recording for my safety, and that recording saved me. That recording saved me from being criminally prosecuted. So yes, it does. I understand it well. Paul, this is
a lot of parents are going out there a lot, and I champion you, and you guys are champions in what you're doing, because that's you're demonstrating the love that you have for your children. And that's the way it should be. And what I'm just saying is we all been through it, and a lot of parents now. I see how come a lot of fathers are walking sown because they've gotten the shit kicked out of them mentally and physically so bad that they can no longer walk upright like men. And you all you guys that are out there fighting for this, I congratulate you. And don't get me wrong, I would do this all over again, but it would have been different in my settings of going through it. And I have lost my faith in the judicial system. I have lost my faith in the police and in law enforcement. I have lost my faith in the vast majority of attorneys, even though there's some good attorneys out there, don't get me wrong. But we need, you want to talk about reform? That's when we should start doing the reform. We should start doing the reform with how they're teaching law, how they're teaching our law enforcement, how they're teaching our teachers. That's where we should start doing our reform. And we need it bad. And because the way the subculture is out there, that's the attack on fathers. And I'm not going wrong because there's mothers out there that go through this and they've been attacked and they're worse off. And it's hard. So for all you fathers that are I commend you all for sticking through, and mothers to sticking through for this, fighting for your child and going forward, because that's what parents should do. But we should not be placed in those situations because those situations were not something that we were placed in. It's something that we were forced into by those that are supposed to protect our peace and harmony and well-being. And that to me is wrong, and that's what needs to die. And that needs to die off, period, not be around. Unfortunately, it happens. George, keep on doing what you're doing. Okay.
I'm gonna keep the fight up, buddy. And like I said, I always tell this to people. I always say, "What will you do for your children?" Right? And everybody said, "Well, I'll run in front of a bus for my child. I'll get hit by a train for my child." But some people, they won't learn the legal system. They won't read the civil rules of procedure. Some parents just
listen. Some of these
it hurts me, Paul, because there's some parents that don't have the mental capacity to learn this. I'm fortunate. I think I'm educated. I think I can read. I think I can comprehend what I read. And some parents don't have it, but it doesn't mean that since they don't have it, that they shouldn't have their kids. So hopefully after all this is over with, I'd like to come up with some sort of 501c where we can offer services to parents that can't compute what they're going through in these family courts, because there's some parents that are able to litigate for themselves by learning and can take it upon themselves to take the initiative to learn this legal skill set. And then there's some that they can't find themselves out of a box, but and they don't know where to turn. There's no resources for them, and unfortunately they lose their children and their children suffer. So I want to thank you. We have made a huge impact together, you and I, and of course Representative Richard Raymond. And I applaud you for being cohesive and keeping us together. We work really well together, man. I love you like a brother, and I really do appreciate your time, bro.
No, thank you. And some of the stuff that I say, hopefully we can get some ears out there. And I tell you guys out there that are going through this, it's a long road. It's a hard road. Think it over with what you're going to do, and make sure that you have this, and make sure that you're going to try to do that, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And for the person that says, "Oh yeah, we already have this worked out, we work it out on our own," listen, follow the freaking decree. Because if you don't follow the decree, they will change it up on you before you know it. And by the time you realize this, you've lost your kids, and it's too late. It's too late when your kid is already in juvenile and you're trying to get them out for something else because you're the one that's going to be the one fighting for them, because usually the moms don't do diddly squat.
Yeah, I mean, how do we expect our kids to be viable in this society with a record? You know, whether they have a misdemeanor theft charge or a felony assault charge or a domestic violence charge because they don't know how to handle women because they didn't have a disciplinarian in their house. How do we expect our children to be I guess, how do we get our children to be a productive member of society? You know, if they already have these statistics stacked against them coming from single parent households, and we need to change that.
But I'm going to tell you one thing, and I'm not wearing a tin hat, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I believe that the main goal here is to keep people incarcerated, keep males incarcerated. It's a big money maker, these prisons that are out there. And if you look at it, it supports judges, law enforcement, security guards, doctors, construction workers.
It affects everybody.
No, that's just a business that it supports, a prison in there, and that everybody, they raise your taxes. It's a big money maker. And
family court's a business, and my child is not your transaction. My child is not for your profit, right? If y'all want to do in the best interest of the child, then do the best interest of the child. If y'all are just going to do money for profit, then at least tell me so I can get in on the game. You know, how much money do I need to buy my child back? You know, but once these lawyers and these judges put down a baseline saying that we follow these laws, we follow these rules, and they don't follow those laws and they don't follow those rules, then there's no baseline for us to gauge on how to conduct business in family court. There has to be a baseline on how, there has to be a baseline on how things are done legally in our family courts. And right now, we don't have that. We have kids for cash, profit, family laws of business type, thing going on in our family courts, and it unfortunately it's hurting our children.
Absolutely.
Theirs.
Absolutely. So we'll take it from there. Keep up a good fight, you guys out there. Happy 4th, and until next time, my brother. Keep up in there. Let me know what's going on, and we'll keep it going.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have you ever wondered about what happens in a martial arts studio? Well, you start right away by setting goals, building determination, gaining focus, building skills, all while becoming more fit, gaining confidence, and learning self-defense. Buitron Academy is a school where attitude meets aptitude. So give us a call at 956-401-4868.